A single dad took 2 bullets protecting a millionaire's daughter and can never speak again. The twist? That millionaire had fired him years earlier, leaving him jobless with a hungry child. Now the man who destroyed his past offers to save his future. But can forgiveness heal a wound deeper than bullets? Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. The rain fell like cold tears on the night Daniel Brooks lost everything that mattered. He stood outside the grand iron gates of the Ashford mansion, his worn jacket soaked through, his 7-year-old daughter Emma shivering beside him. The security guard looked at them with disgust. "Please," Daniel said, his voice breaking. "I just need to speak with Mr. Ashford. I worked for his company for 12 years. They fired me yesterday without any reason. I have a daughter. I need that job." The guard laughed. "Mr. Ashford doesn't meet with people like you. Now leave before I call the police." Daniel felt Emma's small hand squeeze his. Her innocent eyes looked up at him, trusting him to fix everything. But how could he? His wife Sarah had died 2 years ago from cancer. The medical bills had destroyed their savings. This job was all he had left. "Daddy, I'm cold," Emma whispered. Daniel picked up his daughter and walked away from those golden gates. His heart burned with anger, but also with shame. He had failed. Tomorrow, he didn't know how he would feed his little girl. 3 years passed like a slow death. Daniel worked 3 jobs. He cleaned offices at night, delivered newspapers at dawn, and worked construction during the day. He barely slept 4 hours. His body ached constantly. But every night, when he came home to their tiny apartment, Emma would run to him with a smile. "Daddy, I drew you a picture at school." Those moments made everything worth it. Emma was 10 now, smart and kind like her mother. She never complained, even though she wore the same old clothes and ate simple food. She never asked for toys or treats like other children. She understood their struggle without words. One evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. His construction job had ended early due to rain. He found Emma sitting at their small table, surrounded by her schoolwork. "Baby, why aren't you doing your homework?" Daniel asked, noticing she was just staring at a blank page. Emma looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "Daddy, tomorrow is Parent Career Day at school. All the kids are bringing their parents to talk about their jobs. I don't know what to say about you." Daniel's heart broke into pieces. He knelt beside her chair and held her small hands. "Emma, what do you mean?" "The other kids laugh at me," she said softly. "They say you're just a poor worker. They say their parents are doctors and lawyers and business owners. They say I have nothing to be proud of." Daniel felt his throat tighten. He pulled Emma into his arms. "Listen to me, baby. I may not have a fancy job or a big office. But everything I do, every single day, I do for you. That makes me the richest man in the world. Do you understand?" Emma nodded against his chest, but Daniel could feel her silent tears soaking through his shirt. That night, he made a promise to himself. He would give his daughter a better life, no matter what it took. 2 weeks later, Daniel was working his night shift at the Grandview office tower. It was past midnight, and the building was empty except for the security team and cleaning staff. He was mopping the floor on the 15th floor when he heard strange sounds coming from the stairwell. Voices. Angry voices. And then a scream. Daniel dropped his mop and ran toward the sound. His heart pounded in his chest. Through the stairwell door, he saw something that froze his blood. A young woman in an expensive dress was backed against the wall. 3 men surrounded her, their faces covered with masks. One of them held a knife. "Give us your jewelry and your phone," the man with the knife demanded. "And maybe we'll let you live." The woman's face was pale with terror. She was shaking so badly she could barely move her hands to remove her necklace. Daniel knew he should call security. He knew he should stay hidden. He had Emma to think about. But when he saw the knife moving closer to the woman's throat, his body moved before his mind could stop it. "Hey!" Daniel shouted, bursting through the door. "Leave her alone." The three men turned toward him. For a moment, everything was silent. Then one of them laughed. "Look, another hero," the man sneered. "You should have stayed away, cleaner. This doesn't concern you." "Let her go," Daniel said, trying to keep his voice steady. "The police are coming." It was a lie, but he hoped it would scare them. Instead, one of the men pulled out a gun. The woman screamed. "You want to be a hero?" the man with the gun said. "Then die like one." Everything happened so fast. The gunman aimed at the woman. Daniel didn't think. He just moved. He threw himself between the gun and the woman just as the trigger was pulled. The first bullet hit his shoulder. Pain exploded through his body like fire. He fell to his knees but stayed between the woman and the attackers. The gunman fired again. The second bullet hit Daniel's throat. Daniel collapsed to the ground, blood pouring from his wounds. The world became a blur of red and darkness. The last thing he heard before losing consciousness was the woman screaming for help and the sound of running footsteps. Daniel woke up in a hospital room. The lights were too bright. His whole body felt like it was made of pain. He tried to speak, to call for Emma, but no sound came out. Nothing. Just silence. Panic seized him. He tried again, pushing air from his lungs, but his throat made no sound at all. Just a painful emptiness. A nurse rushed in when she saw him awake. "Mr. Brooks. Please don't try to speak. The bullet damaged your vocal cords severely. The doctors did everything they could, but..." She didn't need to finish. Daniel understood. He would never speak again. Never read bedtime stories to Emma with his voice. Never sing her the silly songs her mother used to love. Never tell her he loved her out loud. Tears rolled down his face as the reality crushed him. Later that day, a doctor came to explain everything. The surgery had saved his life, but the damage to his throat was permanent. He would need to learn sign language or use written communication. The medical bills would be enormous. "There is one piece of good news," the doctor said carefully. "The woman you saved is Victoria Ashford. Her father is Richard Ashford, one of the wealthiest men in the city. He wants to meet you." The name hit Daniel like a punch. Ashford. The same man who had fired him 3 years ago. The same man whose guards had turned him away in the rain. The same man who had destroyed his life. Now Daniel had saved his daughter. 2 days later, Richard Ashford walked into Daniel's hospital room. He was a tall man with silver hair and an expensive suit. His face showed genuine concern. "Mr. Brooks," Ashford said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I cannot find words to express my gratitude. You saved my daughter's life. You took 2 bullets meant for her. You are a true hero." Daniel stared at him. He wanted to scream, to write down all his anger. "You ruined my life 3 years ago. You fired me without reason. You turned me away when I begged for help. And now you call me a hero?" But he said nothing. He could say nothing. Ashford continued. "I want to help you. Your medical bills will be completely covered. And I want to offer you a job at my company. A real position with a good salary. You'll never have to work 3 jobs again." Daniel picked up the notepad beside his bed. His hands shook as he wrote, "You fired me 3 years ago. Do you even remember?" Ashford's face went pale. He looked at Daniel's name on the hospital chart, then back at Daniel. Recognition slowly dawned in his eyes. "Daniel Brooks," Ashford whispered. I remember now. You worked in maintenance. My business manager fired you during budget cuts. I signed off on the list without looking at individual names. There were hundreds of layoffs. Daniel wrote again, his handwriting angry and sharp. I begged at your gates in the rain with my daughter. Your guard sent us away. My wife had just died. I had nothing. Ashford sat down heavily in the chair, his face gray with guilt. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. If I had known. But you didn't care to know, Daniel wrote. People like me don't matter to people like you. Until we save your daughter's life. The words hung between them like an accusation. Ashford looked down at his hands, and for the first time, Daniel saw a real shame in the millionaire's eyes. You're right, Ashford said quietly. I've been blind. I've built an empire but forgotten the people who helped build it. I cannot undo the past, but please, let me make the future better. For you and your daughter. Daniel wanted to refuse. His pride screamed at him to reject this man's help. But then he thought of Emma. She deserved better than pride. She deserved a chance. He wrote one word, Emma. Your daughter, Ashford said. Yes. She's been here every day, waiting outside. The nurses told me she barely leaves. Let me help both of you. Please. 3 weeks later, Daniel was released from the hospital. Ashford had arranged everything. A comfortable apartment in a safe neighborhood. A job as a safety consultant at Ashford Industries with a generous salary. Emma enrolled in a prestigious private school. But the generosity came with something unexpected. Victoria Ashford, the daughter Daniel had saved, began visiting their new apartment regularly. She was 24 years old, beautiful and kind. But more than that, she was grateful in a way that went beyond words. She learned sign language to communicate with Daniel. She brought Emma gifts and homework help. She became part of their lives. My father thinks money can repay you, Victoria said one evening, using sign language. But I know it can't. You gave up your voice for my life. How do you repay something like that? Daniel signed back, you don't need to repay anything. I would do it again. Why? Victoria asked, tears in her eyes. You didn't know me. You had every reason to hate my family. Yet you saved me. Daniel picked up his notepad and wrote, because it was the right thing to do. Because someone's daughter deserved to live. Because I'm a father, and I understand what losing a child would mean. Victoria read the words and cried. From that moment, something changed between them. She didn't see him as just a hero anymore. She saw him as a good man who had suffered terrible injustice yet remained kind. Emma loved Victoria too. She finally had a female role model after years without her mother. The three of them would have dinner together, watch movies, visit parks. It felt almost like a family. 6 months passed. Life was better than Daniel had imagined possible. Emma was thriving in her new school. Daniel's job was fulfilling and respected. But something still bothered him. The attack on Victoria had never been solved. The three men were never caught. One night, Daniel was working late at the Ashford Industries office. He was reviewing security footage for his safety report when he noticed something strange. Files from 3 years ago, around the time he was fired. He clicked on them out of curiosity. What he saw made his blood run cold. The footage showed Richard Ashford's office. The date was exactly 1 week before Daniel's firing. In the video, Ashford's business manager, a man named Gregory Hunt, was speaking with someone on the phone. Daniel increased the volume. Hunt's words were clear, yes, we need to cut costs before the audit. Fire the lower-level workers who ask too many questions. Especially that maintenance guy, Daniel Brooks. He saw the accounting irregularities last month. We can't risk him talking. Daniel's hands shook as he watched. He had been fired not because of budget cuts. He had been fired because he had noticed something wrong in the company's finances. He had mentioned it to Hunt, thinking he was being helpful. Instead, Hunt had silenced him. He kept searching through files. He found more evidence. Hunt had been embezzling money from Ashford Industries for years. Millions of dollars. And recently, he had been under investigation. Then Daniel found the final piece. An email from Hunt to an unknown address. The boss's daughter is getting too close to the internal audit. She's asking questions. We need to scare her. Make it look like a random robbery. Just rough her up enough to distract her father. Daniel's heart stopped. The attack on Victoria wasn't random. It was ordered by Hunt. And those men were supposed to scare her, not kill her. But when Daniel interfered, everything went wrong. He had taken 2 bullets meant to intimidate Victoria because of a corrupt manager's crimes. Daniel printed everything and went straight to Richard Ashford's home. It was midnight, but this couldn't wait. Ashford read through the evidence in silence. His face turned red with rage. Gregory Hunt, he whispered. I trusted him for 15 years. He ran my company's finances. And he did this? Daniel wrote quickly, he stole from you. He tried to hurt your daughter. He ruined my life to cover his crimes. What will you do? Ashford looked at Daniel with fire in his eyes. I will destroy him. Legally, completely. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. The next week moved like a storm. Ashford hired the best lawyers and investigators. They built a case against Hunt that was unbreakable. The evidence was overwhelming. Hunt was arrested at his luxury home. The police found more evidence of his crimes, including communication with the men who attacked Victoria. All of them were caught and arrested. The trial was major news. The media loved the story. Corrupt executive targets boss's daughter, hero cleaner saves her life and exposes crimes. Daniel had to testify, writing his answers on a tablet that was displayed on a screen. The courtroom was silent as people read his story. The jury cried when they learned how Hunt had destroyed Daniel's life, then years later inadvertently led to Daniel losing his voice. Hunt was sentenced to 25 years in prison. His co-conspirators received 15 years each. Justice was served. But for Daniel, the victory felt hollow. Yes, the bad man was punished. Yes, he had his voice's worth in money and respect now. But he would never speak again. He would never hear his own voice telling Emma he loved her. 1 year after the trial, Daniel sat in the audience at Emma's school. It was the annual talent show. Emma had insisted he come, but she wouldn't tell him what she planned to perform. When Emma walked onto the stage, Daniel's heart swelled with pride. She had grown so much. She was 12 now, confident and happy. The struggles of the past seemed like a distant dream. Emma stood at the microphone and began to speak. Hello everyone. Today, I want to talk about my hero. My dad. Daniel felt his eyes water immediately. My dad can't speak anymore, Emma continued. He lost his voice saving someone's life. But he taught me that real communication isn't about words. It's about actions. It's about showing up every single day. It's about working 3 jobs so your daughter can eat. It's about sacrificing everything, even your voice, to protect someone else. Emma paused, wiping her own tears. My dad never had a fancy job or a big office. But he is the richest man I know. Because he has something money can't buy. He has a heart full of love and courage. And I am proud to be his daughter. The audience erupted in applause. Daniel couldn't stop crying. Emma ran off the stage and into his arms. He held her tight, tighter than he had ever held anything in his life. Victoria and Richard Ashford were in the audience too. They came over after the show. Daniel, Victoria said, signing as she spoke. I've been thinking about something for a long time. And I want to ask you. Daniel looked at her curiously. Victoria took a deep breath. These past months, getting to know you and Emma, have been the happiest of my life. You showed me what real strength looks like. What real kindness looks like. I know you lost your wife, and I know you lost your voice. But maybe, if you're willing, you could let someone new into your heart. Daniel stared at her, his heart pounding. Was she saying what he thought she was saying? I'm in love with you, Victoria said simply. I love your courage. I love your kindness. I love the way you are with Emma. I know I'm the daughter of the man who hurt you. I know I'm from a different world. But I want to be part of yours. If you'll have me. Daniel looked at Emma. His daughter was smiling with happy tears in her eyes. She nodded eagerly. He looked back at Victoria. This woman who learned sign language for him. Who played with his daughter. Who saw him not as a charity case but as a man worthy of love. Daniel signed slowly, I lost my voice. But maybe I found something better. A new family. Victoria cried and hugged him. Emma joined the hug, laughing and crying at the same time. Richard Ashford watched with tears in his eyes, seeing his daughter truly happy for the first time in years. Daniel stood in his backyard, watching Emma play with her little brother, Thomas, who was 3 years old. Victoria was beside him, her hand in his. They had been married for 4 years now. Life had given Daniel everything back, just in different forms. He couldn't speak, but he didn't need to. His actions spoke louder than words ever could. Emma was 17 now, preparing for college. She wanted to study social work, to help families like hers had been. She was strong, confident, and kind, just like her mother Sarah would have wanted. Thomas was their joy, running around with endless energy. He was learning sign language along with spoken words, growing up bilingual in a way most children weren't. Richard Ashford visited often. He had changed after Hunt's betrayal. He paid more attention to his employees, learned their names, understood their struggles. He had started a foundation to help working families with medical debt, inspired by Daniel's story. Victoria squeezed Daniel's hand. What are you thinking about? She signed. Daniel smiled and signed back, I'm thinking about that night. When I took those bullets. If someone had told me then that I would end up here, with you, with our family, with peace in my heart, I wouldn't have believed them. Do you regret it? Victoria asked. Losing your voice. Daniel thought for a long moment. He looked at Emma laughing with her brother. He looked at Victoria, his wife, his love. He looked at the comfortable home they had built together. He thought about the justice they had won, the corrupt man who was now in prison. Finally, he signed, I regret nothing. My voice was just sound. But my silence speaks louder. It tells a story of sacrifice and love. It tells a story of a father who would do anything for his daughter. It tells a story of justice. No, I don't regret it. Because losing my voice helped me find my real voice, the one that doesn't need words. Victoria cried and kissed him softly. Emma saw them from across the yard and smiled, that same beautiful smile that had kept Daniel going through the darkest times. As the sun set over their home, Daniel realized something profound. He had started as a single dad who took 2 bullets and paid with his voice. But in the end, he had gained everything. He had gained justice. He had gained love. He had gained a family. He had gained respect. He had gained a life where his daughter could be proud. Sometimes the greatest victories come from our greatest sacrifices. Sometimes losing something precious helps us find something even more valuable. Daniel Brooks couldn't speak anymore. But his life spoke volumes. It said that heroes don't need capes or powers. They just need courage and love. But the story doesn't end here. One evening, Victoria came home with an idea that would change everything. She had been working with her father on various charity projects, but this one was different. This one was personal. "Daniel," she signed excitedly, "I want to start a foundation. A foundation for people who have lost their voices, literally and figuratively." Daniel looked at her with curiosity. She continued, her hands moving rapidly in sign language. "There are so many people like you. People who sacrificed something precious. People who were silenced by injustice. People who lost their ability to speak due to accidents or illness. But there's no support system for them. No community. No hope." Daniel thought about this. During his recovery, he had met other patients who couldn't speak. He remembered their loneliness, their struggle to communicate, their families who didn't know how to help them. He remembered feeling completely alone in his silence. He signed back, "What do you have in mind?" Victoria pulled out a folder full of plans. "The Voice Foundation. We'll provide free sign language classes to families. We'll create support groups. We'll help with medical bills for throat surgeries. We'll give scholarships to children of parents who can't speak. We'll fight for their rights in workplaces and schools." Daniel felt tears forming in his eyes. This wasn't just charity. This was giving meaning to his suffering. This was turning his sacrifice into something that could help thousands. He signed, "Yes. Let's do it." Emma, now in her final year of high school, made a decision that surprised everyone. She had been accepted to prestigious universities, but she chose to take a gap year first. "Dad," she said one night at dinner, signing as she spoke so Daniel could understand, "I want to work with the Voice Foundation before college. I want to help other kids who have parents like you." Daniel shook his head firmly. He wrote on his tablet, "No. Your education comes first. College is important." But Emma was stubborn, just like her father. "Dad, you taught me that helping others is the most important education. I'll go to college next year. But right now, I want to do this. Please." Victoria supported Emma's decision. "She's 18, Daniel. She's mature enough to make this choice. And honestly, having someone young, someone who grew up with a parent who can't speak, will make the foundation stronger." Daniel finally agreed, though his heart was heavy with both pride and worry. His little girl was becoming a woman with her own mission in life. Emma threw herself into the work. She created YouTube videos sharing her experience growing up with a father who couldn't speak. She showed people that silence doesn't mean absence of love. Her videos went viral. Millions of people watched them, cried over them, shared them. Comments flooded in. "My dad lost his voice in a car accident. I never knew how to connect with him. Your videos helped me understand. I'm deaf and people treat me like I'm invisible. Thank you for showing that we matter. This made me cry. What a beautiful father-daughter relationship." Emma became the face of the Voice Foundation. She spoke at schools, at hospitals, at community centers. And every time, she told her father's story. The story of a man who took 2 bullets and lost his voice but never lost his love. 2 years after the foundation started, they organized a big event. A gathering of hundreds of people who couldn't speak, along with their families. It was held in a large convention center that Richard Ashford had donated for the occasion. Daniel walked through the crowd, seeing faces of all ages. Children who were born without the ability to speak. Adults who lost their voices to cancer, accidents, or violence. Elderly people whose families had given up trying to communicate with them. But here, everyone understood. Here, hands moved in graceful sign language. Here, tablets and phones displayed typed messages. Here, silence was not lonely. It was peaceful. One man approached Daniel. He was around 60 years old, with kind eyes and weathered hands. He signed, "Are you Daniel Brooks?" Daniel nodded. The man's eyes filled with tears. "I'm Robert Chen. 30 years ago, I lost my voice in a factory accident. My wife left me because she said living with a silent man was too hard. My children grew distant because I couldn't talk to them. I've been alone for 3 decades. Daniel's heart broke for this man. He signed back, "I'm so sorry." Robert shook his head. "Don't be sorry. Be proud. Because of your foundation, I reconnected with my son last month. Your daughter's videos showed him that silence doesn't mean I stopped loving him. We're learning sign language together now. At 63 years old, I have my son back. You gave me that." Daniel hugged Robert tightly. Both men cried, their silent tears speaking volumes that words never could. Throughout the evening, dozens of people approached Daniel with similar stories. The foundation had helped over 5,000 families in just 2 years. They had provided free sign language education to 10,000 people. They had paid medical bills for 300 surgeries. They had given scholarships to 150 children. But more than the numbers, they had given hope. They had created a community. They had shown the world that losing your voice doesn't mean losing your humanity. That night, after the event, Daniel sat on his porch with Victoria. The stars were bright above them. Thomas was asleep inside. Emma was still at the convention center, talking with young people who looked up to her. Victoria signed, "You know what amazes me most about you?" Daniel looked at her questioningly. "You could have been bitter. You could have spent your life angry at what you lost. But instead, you turned your pain into purpose. You took the worst moment of your life and made it the beginning of something beautiful." Daniel smiled and signed back, "I had no choice. I had Emma to live for. I had you to love. I had a second chance at life. How could I waste it on bitterness?" Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence for a long time. Then Daniel picked up his phone and typed a message. "Do you remember what I wrote in the hospital? When your father first offered to help? I wrote one word, Emma. Everything I did was for her. But now, I realize my sacrifice wasn't just for Emma. It was for every Emma out there. Every child who needs their parent. Every person who thinks losing their voice means losing their life. My silence became their strength. And that makes everything worth it." Victoria read the message and cried. She turned to Daniel and signed, "I love you. Not because you're a hero. But because you're you. Brave, kind, selfless you." They kissed under the stars, two people from completely different worlds who found each other through tragedy and built something beautiful through love. Inside the house, young Thomas woke up. He walked out to the porch rubbing his eyes. "Daddy," he said softly. Daniel opened his arms and Thomas climbed into his lap. The little boy signed, "I love you, Daddy." Daniel signed back, "I love you too, son." Thomas looked up at his father's face. "Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be like you. A hero." Daniel shook his head gently. He picked up his phone and showed Thomas what he typed. "You don't need to be a hero, Thomas. Just be kind. Just be brave. Just love people with all your heart. That's all that matters." Thomas nodded seriously, then yawned and fell back asleep in his father's arms. Daniel held his son close, feeling the weight of this small body, this precious life that existed because Daniel had survived those bullets. The night was peaceful. The foundation was growing. Emma was changing lives. Victoria was by his side. Thomas was in his arms. Daniel Brooks had taken 2 bullets and paid with his voice. But in return, life had given him everything that truly mattered. Not just a second chance, but a greater purpose. Not just survival, but a legacy. His voice was gone, but his message echoed in thousands of hearts: love is stronger than pain. Sacrifice is never wasted. And silence, when filled with purpose, can speak louder than any words ever could.